Hi friends, welcome to this latest episode of the Nationalist View. We have with us a very special guest, Mr. Bipin Deo from Kathmandu, Nepal. Bipin ji, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thanks for having me, Anandji.
Bipin ji is a geopolitics expert and he contributes regularly in various national and international publications. He also appears on a number of Nepalis as well as international uh, media platforms with his expert comments. So today we are going to talk a little bit about Nepal and certain aspects or about certain developments in South Asia also. So first, Bipinji, Nepal has just come out with its new budget a couple of days ago, and this is the first budget of the Balendra Shah government. So how do you look at this budget? Does it signal a new economic direction for Nepal? Because there were a lot of expectations from this government. And how should India be looking at this budget?
Anandji, thank you very much. Actually, in Nepal, this government came just in a background when the people have lots of expectations that this government would bring necessary change in the existing condition in all sectors particularly. So accumulated anger and frustrations paved the way for the arrival of this government. So naturally people had lots of expectations from the budget, and this budget in fact has some strength as well as some weakness that is very natural. So this budget has in fact accelerated the pace of liberalizations. It has been in a tune of the liberalized economy. Uh, the budget has injected a sense of hope and expectations, particularly in the middle class, because there is increment 21% increment of salary of the bureaucrats, teachers, university teachers in all government sectors. There is a flexible tax system up to 10 lakhs. The tax deductions has taken place. At the same time, the one of the most important factor that this budget has addressed, that it has laid stress on the religious tourism, which we were talking about, that this is the demand of the day, that Nepal must pay the attention about the religious tourism, particularly on the Hindu tourism. So Janakpur, Muktinath, just like many other religious places have been focused in order to develop their infrastructure so much so that they can allure, these places can allure the tourist, Hindu tourist from India particularly. At the same time, the budget in fact has, just like it has as I have just mentioned, that the pace of the liberalization has been accelerated. At the same time, many riffraff laws, traditional laws have been removed, so much so that there can be flexibility in the system. Some structural changes have been sought to be introduced in the systems. And at the same time, just in order to create an atmosphere of investment friendly atmosphere in the market, the government has appealed to the private sectors. This is the in fact the strength of the budget. As far as there are some sectors in which the budget does not seem to be focusing. Mm, for example, the budget is mute particularly on, just like in process of industrializations, that is a demand of the day. Because there, I mean, there must be the just like there are some sectors which need to be injected so much so that these sectors can stand on their own foots. And another things we talk about this budget, the artificial intelligence, IT, digitalizations, these sectors have been focused. So more or less, we can talk about this budget after lots of the hopes and expectation of the Nepalese people. The budget in these days has just like created an atmosphere, and the people, it is the talk of the time and the talk of the street in the Kathmandu that this budget is going to just like solve some problems. But let us see, the implementation aspect is a problem, because as we say that geopolitics also does have impact. Nepalese economy is integrated with the Indian economy. Because of the energy crisis, there is ups and downs in the market. Inflation's problem is there. Uh, at the same time, in Nepal, you find the financial discipline is also one of the factors. Red tapeism is also one of the factors. So more or less, we can say that this budget has just like paved the positive directions, and it has in fact it also just like addresses the many problems of the Nepal. In the days to come, I think that Nepalese economy would go on the good track.
Sir, we have seen you. First, it was Russia-Ukraine war, which started and which is still going on for almost like 4 years. And then there is conflict in the Middle East or West Asia, which is happening. And then apart from that, China is also becoming increasingly aggressive in the Indo-Pacific region. So, do you see basically, no, there is a lot of consensus now that the world order is changing, and like countries like India, they have adopted the multi-alignment policy. But from your perspective, from Nepal's perspective also, how South Asia is adapting to this changing world order?
In fact, there is a tussle for the power, especially if we talk about the present global, rather we can say global disorder. Old system is going to be collapsed and new system is not being in the board. That is the reality. And the power play, the game of the power play is on the speed. Just like in the 2026 May, if you look at, you find that there's up hustle and bustle in the geopolitics. Uh, Trump has visited China. Putin has visited China. Modi has visited, in fact, UAE, Norway, Netherlands, Italy, and Sweden. Marco Rubio has visited India. So you find the leaders are just like visiting in the different place, creating new equations, new just like understandings like this. All these things do have immense impact, particularly on the South Asia. And South Asia, if we talk about South Asia, largely depend on it is a in fact import-oriented economy. Apart from India, all these in the periphery, all these countries depend on either remittance or imports. So global crisis, just like a problem in Ukraine and problem in the West Asia, do have the repercussion on the economy on the South Asia. Just like in a country like Bangladesh, country like Sri Lanka, country like Nepal, not to talk of the Pakistan. Pakistan suffers a lot in comparison to others. And in these days, one point that you have raised very brilliantly, just like Pakistan Prime Minister has visited just China, and CPEC 2.0, CPEC has been again, they have China has agreed to expand this very project. The moment China signed with the Pakistan, there was a reactions from Balochistan, you see. So just like whatever happens outside, it has immediate impact on the South Asia. South Asia, in fact, just like in the Middle East crisis, Pakistan, for the time being, has been made just like as a mediator to play the role. Soon the Pakistan was not stamped with the seal of the approval either by Israel, even Iran does not accept from the core of his hearts. So in the South Asia, when we talk about South Asia, has a lots of the problems, and there is a problem of there is imbalance. We can say uh, we have the problem, the conflict between Afghanistan and Pakistan's. Pakistan has lots of internal problems. Bangladesh, in fact, is reviewing. It is just like going in the good directions. And through your program, I have just like once mentioned, as long as these countries will not go on the track of the development, then these very ethical, communal, religious, these problems would not be addressed. The point is that South Asia has to go on the economic track. So democracy, human rights, these things have to be emphasized. And these things ultimately pave the way for the development of South Asia. So I think that geopolitics has a great deal of impact, particularly on the South Asia.
Recently, the foreign ministers of Quad met in New Delhi when the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio was visiting no, here. So now there are two conflicting views about Quad. So one, of course, it is seen as a counterweight to China's rise, especially in the Indo-Pacific region. On the other hand, there is seems to be a reluctance in the part of United States to take up the desired role which it should have in Quad, and there are questions which are being raised about effectiveness of Quad. So, how do you see the future of Quad, and especially its role in counterbalancing the Chinese growing Chinese aggression?
In fact, Quad, the relevance of the Quad is also a demand of the day. Quad, you find the way the China is becoming assertive and aggressive, particularly in the South China Sea, particularly in bullying the other East Asian countries, ASEANs. Uh, all these neighbors of the Chinas have been disturbed because the policy of East China Sea or the South China Sea. 9 dash lines, artificials, just like islands are being created. So, in fact, America has no other alternative than playing its role in Indo-Pacific. And just like in order to establish the peace and tranquility in the Indo-Pacific areas, the Quad is quite essential. First and foremost, the Quad does mean the four democratic countries: United States, Australia, Japan, and India. These four countries are based on the democratic norms and values. So this is the synergy that has, in fact, created this very forum. Number one. Number two, just like Indo-Pacific area is very important. It is a lifeline of international commerce and business. Third important thing, just like there are many commentators who say that the with the growing proximity of United States with the China, the relevance of the Quad is gone. I personally do not believe that the relevance of the Quad is gone, because in visit, just like if you read the joint statement between Dr. Jaishankar, Quad statement, Minister for Foreign Ministers meeting in Delhi. So this type, the joint statement has been very strong, and they have just like reposed their faith in the joint commitment in order to just like establish the peace and tranquility in the Indo-Pacific. They have just like made their commitment clear. So I think Quad is growing stronger than before. And 10 times, if you talk about, if just like Marco Rubio has 10 times has declared that India is our strongest partner. India has very important role in the Indo-Pacific area. India has very important role to just like to provide the maritime security. India has very a strong role to play the role of coordinator in the Quad, and particularly in the Indo-Pacific areas. So from the 2004, when the tsunami developed, even at that time, United States has realized that United States has no other alternative than joining hands with India in order to just like create a positive atmosphere in the Indo-Pacific areas. So 10 times Marco Rubio has said that India has been a strategic allies, though India has claimed that it has not been under the security umbrella of United States. So India has not been aligned. This is the official position of India, that it has not been aligned. But in with the appointment of the Sergio Gore, with the defense agreement between United States and India, with the visit of Marco Rubio, these three indicators, these three metrics make it clear that Indo-USA relation is on the good track. And the moment Indo-US relationship goes on the good track, Quad has greater role to play in the Indo-Pacific areas. And with the centrality of the ASEAN, we cannot ignore, Quad cannot ignore the ASEAN. So because all these ASEAN countries depend on this very quadrilateral relationship quads, because the way they are being humiliated, the way they are bullied by China, just like you have just like seen the example of the Philippines, how Philippines has been from time to time humiliated because of big brotherly behavior of China. So I think that in the Indo-Pacific area, Quad has important role to play.
So let's talk a little bit about Pakistan. Now, there's a lot of speculation about Pakistan. Well, there's a lot of speculation about Pakistan joining the Abraham Accord. So, how do you see this no possibility whether the Pakistan would be joining the Abraham Accord ultimately because there is intense US pressure on it? Though officially they have taken a stand that they are not probably in favor of joining the Abraham Accord, but there is an intense pressure by US. So, how do you see this this possibility of Pakistan joining the Abraham Accord, and whether it joins or if it doesn't join? So, in both the cases, what would be the impact on South Asia?
In fact, Pakistan has been in the quagmire of the problems. The society itself is horizontally and vertically divided. Fanatics, in fact, fanatics, they no matter they condemn and criticize United States, Israel all the time, but just like fanatics, totally depend on the dollars. Pakistani army depends on the dollars. So what happens? It is because of the domestic problems, fanaticisms, I mean, the communalisms, just like religious bigotries, are growing in all its forms and manifestation in the Pakistani society. So no matter they condemn and criticize United States, Europe, Israel, but Pakistani army has been the first choice of United States, my favorite field marshals. At the same time, just like whatever United States says, Pakistani army is always trying its best to translate the words of the Trump into the actions. So, in fact, moment Pakistan joins Abraham Accords, what happens? It has to handshake with Israel. So far, Pakistan does not have the diplomatic relationship with Israel. No, one cannot go to Israel with the Pakistani passports. There is no relationship between Pakistan and Israel. The nationalism of Pakistan is based on anti-Israel and anti-India. The moment Pakistani army says that we are going to handshake with Israel, these very mullahs and these very fanatics, they just like revolt against the Pakistani Islam, I mean Pakistani military. So democracy is in fact the only puppet, I mean prime minister is only the puppet in the hand of the armies. So in this case, I think that America has, people say that America has good relationship after the Operation Sindoor. People, I mean, there is good relationship between United States and America, I mean, Pakistan. Some commentators even went to the extent of saying that the Pakistan has been the 51 states of the United States, forgetting the fact that no American businessman is going to invest even penny in Pakistan, no Amazon, no Microsoft, no Google's, no just like financial agency is going to invest the Pakistan. They invest in India. What they do, what United States does, that they sometimes only they pamper, they appease, they allure the Pakistani armies in order to make their influence on the Pakistan. So I think that the moment the Pakistan participate in the Abraham Accord, then there would be just like a conflict, particularly in the Pakistani society between religious leaders and military leaders. And Pakistan would go on the civil war. Though civil war is one in way Balochistan problem, the fight with just like problem in the Sindh, fight with the Afghanistan's, Taliban. There, I mean, Pakistan is in the quagmire of the problems. It is in the cloud of uncertainty. So I think my observation, my reading is that Pakistan is is not going to join in the Abraham Accord, no matter America exercise its pressure. America will just like search the another route for the Pakistan. This is my take.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for decoding all these contemporary developments, and we hope to host you back soon again. And with this, we end this conversation here, and we hope to be back with another conversation soon. And thank you for watching news, and thank you, sir, once again for taking time out from a busy schedule and joining the show. Thank you, sir.
Thanks very much, Anandji, for giving opportunity.